Okay, where were we? Image, adjust. In here is brightness and contrast, and this allows you to control, guess what, the brightness and contrast of the object. Let me be on the right thing. There we go. It gets lighter. And I can knock the contrast down. There's the new way they do it, right, which is very subtle. And then the old way they do it, which is heavy-handed. So depending on which one of those you'd like to use, click this button that says Use the Legacy if you need to do a lot of brightness contrast work, or use the new version of it if you'd like it to be a little more subtle in what you're doing. Deselect crap. Image, adjust, brightness, contrast, levels, kind of does the same thing. Curves kind of does the same thing, but in a different way. Vibrance kind of does the same thing in a different way. Hue and saturation is the next one we'll use. This allows us to change the color completely of what we're working on. Increase the saturation or decrease the saturation. Increase the lightness, and any combination therein. Use this one a lot. It also has a colorize function. So, for instance, let's see if I have a picture here. Just drop that in. Hold on a second. For instance, here's a picture. And if I go image just, hue saturation, again, I can change all the colors around. And you can see here it's adding a percentage or taking away a percentage, which causes the numbers of the colors to change. That's how that does that. Or I can hit colorize and it makes it all one color. And then I have the option of hue and saturation or changing the color, increasing or decreasing the brightness. But you can see even the whites get a little bit of color. So if you want the background to look still light, don't darken it too much. And then if you want it to be all one color, you can darken it a little bit, and then the negative areas come up as a positive. All right. Just, we can get into the rest of this later. The only other one, there's desaturate, which takes all color out of it, and replace color, which is actually can be quite helpful because we can pick a color and alter just that one color. Of course, it's picking the blue. So if I knock down the fuzziness so that it just shows his shirt there, you can see I can change just the color on that one shirt, even though the whole picture is blue. It's not perfect though, right? Because as I increase the resolution of the color replace, it starts grabbing other pieces within it, of course, because we've made it a single thing, a single color. So if I delete that and I bring in that, go away. Sorry. Delete that. Just bring in that picture again. Change it to a raster because it's a smart object. We'll get into that in a bit. Image adjust, replace color. I can pick the purple. And just replace that one color. I guess her dress is the same color. But you get the idea. And then just real quick, here is image adjust, desaturate, turns it all to grayscale. Great. Under layer, so layer happens in two places. This is the pull down menu for layers. And this is the window for layers. And the windows for layers is usually docked over here at the bottom. My preferred method of having stuff is swatches or colors up here and layers down here. And you can see if I turn this off, then you can see the lower layer. But all these layer functions here are in here. I can select here and get them in this little, they call it a hamburger menu, but it's like a double patty because there's 4 lines in Photoshop. I'm not sure why. They have to be one better than everybody. There is all that stuff happens there. You can also right click on a layer and get quite a bit of stuff. However, right clicking gets you different stuff than hitting the little menu thingy. So let's say that, and down here are other layer options, folders, hide, effects. There is a thing called blending effects, which we'll talk about later. But if I create another layer, there's my other layer, and I'm just left clicking on it and dragging it below. So that's our top layer. There's our layer with the green. I can move this over here, turn this on so you can see them both. And I can go to the bottom layer here and pick a color and painted the whole top layer. To select the bottom layer and then I don't know why it's doing that, but here we can. It'd be that way. We're going to lock that. This locks the layer so you can't do anything with it. That locks the layer so you can't do anything with it. Oh, because these are they're nested under this. It created a thing called Artboard, which is actually a folder, and this is outside the folder. Anyways, we take this and this, drag them up out of the Artboard layer, delete the Artboard layer. Oh, that feels much better. Then we can paint our layer 2, and then you can see those two are stuck on top of it. If we want to make this all one picture, we can do stuff like we can create a group, and they'll be grouped like we just saw under a folder. We can convert them to a smart object, which means that all 3 of these layers are saved in a temporary folder, and you have access to a version of all those 3 layers. But in order to access any one of those 3 layers, you have to double click on the smart object and open it in a separate window, and then save it, and then it saves it into that smart layer. There's also merge visible, which merges anything in the stack here. This is called the stack layer stack. Flatten image, which flattens all these things together. We can select 2 of them and merge those layers. And now those layers are together, and this layer is one. Obviously, that is eyeball on it. Blending options is a whole list of special effects that you can do to the layers, drop shadows and bevel embossing and all sorts of stuff. We'll do a whole thing on that. Oh, the one thing I do want to get into is, here's the text tool, just real quick. I'm going to change the color of the text. Just hit that T down, and you can see it creates a text thing. And you can see in layers, it comes up as a T with the text. Oftentimes, when you're trying to do stuff in the layer system, if you are on text, like you can't save when you're on the text layer. It won't let you save it. There's funny stuff. So just be aware that if you're on the text layer in the layers, it might be kind of weird. So you might have to click off it just to one of the other layers, and then you'll be able to do stuff just fine. It's just kind of a weird buggy thing in Photoshop. All right, so while we're in the text editor, here's the text editor. It's click and play. I've got one layer here, so I need to create another layer. I'm going to just click on the text tool, and you can see if I hold it down, I've got vertical and horizontal and dotted, all sorts of stuff. We're just going to go with regular text right now. I'm going to type in the word text 2. And you can see it made it 14 point here, but I can take it up to 72 point if I select it. In order to select it, I have to left click over it and drag across it in order for it to be active, because I've already put it down. There's 72 point text. If I change this to say like 200 or something, if I predetermine how big the text is going to be, and switch off that layer and then come here, sorry, if I change this here, before I've done anything, you can see that it makes it big. This is called temporary type, lorem ipsum. It pops up all the time just to give you an idea of what it is that you'll be texting. This button here, you can see I can click down and there's a line underneath it. That means it's active. I'm on that layer. I can come in here and change the color of the text to whatever I want. There's options for bending the text in funky ways. We'll get into that a little bit. It's really just a predetermined warp. And many other things. So here's all the fonts that I have. You're able to put in whatever font you put in your computer can then be used in Photoshop. So you just add fonts to your font repository and it immediately shows up here. And anytime you feel like it, you can change whatever the font is. You can roll through them if you like. Unlike Illustrator, text doesn't have, even though it's a vector, here's a vector button here, it doesn't have a stroke attached to the text. So in order to put a stroke attached to the text, say you wanted this outlined in some color, you do have to go to the blending options and hit stroke here. And then you can size it up. And that's how strokes are done on text in Photoshop. All right. The type tool is also over, or all the stuff for the type tool is also over here. Orientation, panel, all sorts of text stuff. But for right now, just being able to click and type something is pretty good for you. We'll start there, or we'll stop there, and then part 3 will come up here in a second.